Something along those lines.
Yeah.
But we're talking about some pretty specific hands. And this Elves deck, I mean, we've seen Ross on camera killing on turn 3 quite a bit, and killing on turn 3 through Force of Will. Dave, with no disruption, that good.
A quick keep and Queer and Ranger to begin here for Merriam. Shields will draw a card. It's a Plains. Couple of white cards hiding over there. A couple of ports. This looks like a Mother of Runes, and it is. Pass the turn back over to Merriam, who will take a draw. It's a Verdant Catacombs. He's going to go down to 19.
And I almost feel like Ross keeping 7 and Dave only having Mother Runes on turn 1 and not Swords of Plowshares is it's almost the death knell already.
Yeah. Merriam will present. We'll see what he wants to play. It's an Elvish Visionary. He'll be cantripping. Take a draw. Nettle Sentinel. Passes the turn back. No interest in trying to trade his Queer and Ranger for a Mother Runes. Mother Runes in his matchup, for the most part, has no text.
Yeah. It's odd because, I mean, it can do some work allowing a creature to connect if it has a Numazawa's Jete on it. That's the one piece of the puzzle it can really add.
Shields looking at a Wasteland, looking at a port. Also has a Stone Forge. What does he want to do on this turn? He wants to play a Stone Forge. He'll go searching for an equipment. I imagine it'll be Numazawa's Jete. You see Merriam going to take his turn while Shields does shirts out the legendary equipment from Kamigawa. Gonna go get a Bayou off of the Verdant Catacombs. Let's see if Ross has a big turn in store.
I know he has at least one glimpse in hand.
Mm-hmm. Both players will shuffle each other's decks here very quickly. And then we'll see what Merriam has to do on his third turn of the game.
And it's pretty hard for him to win the game from this base. Usually draws like this require a cradle, but it's still possible.
Yeah, there's a glimpse. That's a glimpse. This is a Heritage Druid. 2 cards coming. It's about to get ugly. And 2. 3 green. Down to 2. Nettle Sentinel. You see 2 Visionaries over there. He did pick up another copy of Glimpse.
So now the question is, does Ross want to try to go fully off this turn or just use this as a developmental turn and then really lock things up next turn?
I think we use this as a turn to go fully off because he can Zenith here with the 2 mana floating for 1. That's what he's going to do. He can go get another Nettle or he can get a Wirewood. He can get another Nettle here. Shuffle the Zenith back in. He can use Queer and Ranger to pick up a land on tap an elf and start generating so much mana with every spell that he plays. And also drawing 2 cards along the way. You have to imagine by the end of this turn, he's going to have a whole bunch of elves in play and a whole bunch of mana in his mana pool. So there's the Ranger. Pick up the Bayou, untap the Visionary. This is 3 green. Merriam may cast another Glimpse here, and he will. That'll untap that. 2 green left, no green left. Peel 4. He'll add 3. He's got 1 left. Peel 4. Heritage Druid among them. There's a natural order. Up to 4, down to 3, peel 3, Craterhoof among them, up to 6.
Alongside natural order as well, so he's got.
And he's gonna show Dave everything. You can see the hands are shaking. He looks like he's a little bit nervous. Shields might make him go through it here. We'll see. You see Shields with Revoker. And he's going to pick it up. So Ross Merriam is going to win game number 1 in the finals against David Shields.
And this is one of those, this is round one of the Swiss. Maybe we're talking about making him play it out. But at 11:30 in the night, with a drive back for Ross at the minimum, maybe it's just time to get a move on.
Yeah, Dave knows that he's dead, so Merriam's going to win game number one. We'll bring it back to the booth here so we can do a little trivia. You got the rules?
I do.
How far away? Last question of the night.
All right, Cedric's going to ask you a question. Tweet your answer at SCG Live, hashtag SCG Premium. Of the correct responses, one will be selected at random for a full year of Star City Games premium content. That is a lot. Don't worry about answering first, just accurately. And please keep in mind that this trivia giveaway and the prize is run at the sole discretion of StarCityGames.com. Twitch TV is in no way responsible for any giveaways on its stream.
Next weekend, Season 2 Invitational. It's going to be fun. Me, you, Matthias. Chris Van Meter has basically punched his ticket. We got one more player who, when they do win the Invitational, will qualify. The question is, where are we going to be next weekend for our Season 2 Invitational? First of 4 this year.
Nickname of Cowtown, I believe.
Cowtown it is.
Yeah.
Cowtown it is.
Do all cities in Ohio have rhyming names?
No.
Okay. Tire Fire Cleveland, is that a thing? No.
No. Why?
Could be a thing.
Why are you taking a shot at Cleveland
Let's
right
go to
now?
You take so many jersey shots, man. I got to get mine in when I
Jersey's
can.
garbage. That's why.
Dude, come on. Let's go to the board here.
We'll take a look at the sideboards here. Dave Shiels, as far as his options are concerned, they're not great. You've got a Batter Skull, you've got a Graftricker's Cage, that's at least one good one. Needle's okay. Canonist, not so much. You got a Sun Lance. You see Cataclysm, Ghost Quarter, Wiltleaf Liege, Oblivion Ring, Rest in Peace. Nothing too exciting here.
Well, Candace has got to do some work here,
It's
right?
fine. I don't think it's great, especially when you know it's coming.
Yeah. I think you're going to see Ross bring in 3 copies of Abrupt Decay and probably the Kasali Pride Mage as well. The only thing he's got to really concern himself with is getting hit with Umazawa's Jute. That's really the one angle that David has that gives him a real shot in the game. So Ross is going to want to protect himself from that as much as possible. You may also see him bring in the additional natural order because Dave doesn't really have a lot of ways to break this up besides the Grafdigger's Cage.
Both players taking a look at the deck list here. Doing their sideboarding will be underway here for game number 2. Again, Merriam, the story of this tournament, does win the Standard Open. He is 1 game away from winning the Legacy Open and going back-to-back. The only other player to ever do that, Jerry Thompson. And boy, is the matchup favorable here in the finals.
Yeah, you couldn't ask for anything better. In fact, if you had to ask Ross what is the best matchup for you that is commonly played in the format, this might be the answer.
And while we do wait for these players to sideboard, do of course want to talk about the newest addition to our creature collection one last time this weekend. There's the cutest squirrel there's ever been.
Tied with all the other squirrels we generate.
That is accurate. You see the playmat, you've got the deck box, you've got the dice bag, you've got the sleeves, and of course any Legacy Open that you do join beginning June 13th next weekend for our Season 2 Invitational. We'll give away 2 of these to you. Fun to see. I know there'll be more additions along the way the rest of this year, so it's going to be a fun weekend to see. It's going to be fun to see what we add to our creature collection over the rest of 2014.
I predict big eyes, chubby cheeks, and lots of fur. It's just a winning recipe for a moving product. That's just true.
Well, there you go.
That's just true.
Smartest guy I know.
It's basically what the entire internet is hubbed around at this point.
It really is.
Yeah.
Between all these cat memes, which are just ridiculous, and not squirrels. Maybe squirrel memes will be the new thing.
They're just, they're just sort of more wild, so it's hard to catch them doing cute stuff.
But when you do, they have to be better than cats.
Yeah, probably.
Right.
There's no sentimental attachment because you can't have a squirrel as a pet. Or you can, but it's
Okay, thank
probably
you.
horrible.
Well, I guess we'll never know. With an attitude like that,
Yeah.
Sergeant Whiskers is safe, that's for sure. No squirrels coming to your apartment.
No. They're on the harder side of finding California anyway.
What's the worst thing a squirrel could do?
Probably just run around the house, not be able to be domesticated, scratch things, and pee and poop everywhere. That would be my guess. Which seems very likely. That's not even hard to imagine, right?
Yeah.
That's just what a squirrel would do.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Probably just, find a way to get in your cupboard, eat all your food, or at least just puncture holes in all of your food boxes. Right, it's really easy to, and it could be potentially worse, but it's very easy to imagine this fail state, right?
I'd say it's possible.
Yeah,
I'd say it's possible. If you could choose one, a baby squirrel or a baby hippo?
no, because I would take the baby squirrel because at least when that thing became large and unmanageable, I could simply release it to the wild, whereas the hippo would kill me when it got large enough. That would be what it was trying to conspire to do the whole time, which is, while we're talking about this, why I do not fathom people who own pet snakes, because all the snake is trying to do is figure out how to kill you. There's only two ways your relationship with a pet snake can end. Either the snake dies or it kills you. That's the only way the relationship ends. The entire time it's in the cage, you're feeding it. You think that, you know, you're providing it love, and it's loving you like creatures do, most pets, cats and dogs and so forth. All it is trying to do with the limited mental capacity it has is figure out a way to kill you while you sleep. The hippo would be similar.
But more adorable.
And way less discreet.
That's true.
The snake would probably at least wait until you were asleep. The hippo would just be large enough to eat you and then do that.
Well, I would take the baby hippo.
Yeah. The upside's probably higher. It's sweet probably for a little while.
Hopefully for a long
Until
while.
it breaks everything you own and eats you. But again, I you know, I'm no biologist. I can't really speak to whether or not
You
these
seem a
handles.
bit biased here.
I'm very anti-pet snake. I've never comprehended it. Prerequisite for animals, I have two. They have to be friendly, and they have to have fur. That's about it. Pet goldfish, not really that sweet. I can understand if you just like, you want to have something hanging out with you. That's fine. At least the goldfish is not conspiring on how to kill you. The snake fails the second test. Or I guess the third test. Friendliness, fur, and is it conspiring to kill you?
Gotcha. 3 tests for pets.
Piranhas fails the test in the same way. It's trying to do the same thing.
Game number 2 underway here in just a moment. Thank you for that that lesson on pets.
Yeah.
I will take that with me on the road. Next time in a PetSmart.
Yeah.
No snake for me. Shiels taking a look at the opener. It's a turn 1/8 Vial. He'll pass it back over to Merriam, who will take a draw. Gonna begin with a Misty. We'll see if he searches for basic forest here. Wouldn't be surprised if he does, just because he doesn't want to get, you know, kind of destroyed by Wasteland, but he's gonna go with a Savannah. Now, of course, you can't pick up the Savannah with the Ranger, but
It's possible he needs to get Savannah too if he's brought in Kasali Pride Mage, which I believe is one of the cards Ross is likely to bring in here.
Shiels with a port. Could go for more of a mana disruption plan. Or he could just rush again to Stoneforge. Yeah, that's what he's going to do. He's going to try to rush to GTA again, I think.
This is a pretty powerful opening. I mean, he gets to go get the Stoneforge Mystic, presumably get Umezawa Jite, Vial out of Mother of Runes. He's 2 turns away from being able to connect with some protection. Now, there's no guarantee that's even fast enough. But it's at least something.
There's the GTA. Merriam will take a draw. Looks like he may have picked up a Cradle for the turn. He can go from 0 to 60 pretty fast. There's a Heritage Druid. That's a Cradle. That's 2 green. That's a Visionary. That's a really good turn. There's a Trigger. Draw a card.
And I mean, this is the concern, right? If you're David, your draw is about as good as you can ask for here.
Yeah, it really
And
is.
he might not get a 4th turn to put Jite on something.
See the observers for Merriam. Not sure if he has a natural or a weighted behemoth just yet, but you can see a really nice turn there from Merriam. Boy. And he's going to add 3 green to the pool. He's going to put a few more things into play potentially. Maybe just cast the Zenith. I think he's trying to figure out what to Zenith for. Might be time for maybe another Elvish Visionary, get a little deeper in the deck.
Again, it's just about the setup here. If he's casting the Green Sun Zenith in this spot, given how much mana he has, a 2nd Cradle in hand, I assume that he has the kill next turn, because the Zenith is one path to kill with Crater Hoof.
What's he looking for? A Wirewood? So it gives him a mana floating. And now Quarian Ranger. Yeah, it feels like he's setting up for the big one next turn.
Yep.
And the fact that he has a backup Cradle means he can work his way through a port.
And while we're on the topic of animals conspiring to kill you, Crater Hoof Behemoth, definitely not something I would keep as a pet.
The flag bearer. Yeah. Even though I imagine it's cute when it's small.
Right.
Mother of Rune's going to come in. A quick untap here from Shiels. See if he takes the vial up to 2 or not. He's going to take it up. It's up to 2. He'll take a draw. It's a Revoker. He's got the GT. As you mentioned, this is as quick as he can get it. He might not have time.
This is as fast as it gets.
And Wirewood blows that up too, of course.
Yeah.
Now, of course, he can equip the GT and then give his creature protection from green and force through damage and get to work with the GT. But again, time is the issue. That's the big problem.
He's got a Plow and a Jitte and a Revoker in his hand. I mean, that's, again, Shields on the play with something resembling his best possible opening.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we might be looking at yet another turn 3 kill here from Ross shortly.
See Shields there again. Gonna play a Rising Canopy, has a Swords, Revoker, a GT. I believe the other card is a Revoker as well. He's trying to figure out how he can get that GT into play and start going to work. That's all he needs to do, but it's easier said than done.
I mean, he's got to plow something, right? I mean, he's just got to the symbiote, I imagine, because nothing else can be targeted.
Yeah, nothing else can be plowed because the symbiote's in place. So step 1 is probably the symbiote, and that's exactly what it is. So we're going to see if Ross actually wants to pick up a creature here, maybe Yellow's Visionary, with this on the stack. Looks like he does. Leads me to believe that he doesn't have it yet. If he's doing that. No guarantee, of course, but leads me to believe that's the case.
So there's the Revoker on the Heritage Druid. So again, Shields making a good faith effort here.
Merriam's going to add 3. Down to 1. Take a draw. Nettle Sentinel. There's a Misty. See if he wants to search up. It's not a Dried Arbor, he just went past one. It's a basic forest.
I think that Ross may have the Pride Mage in hand.
That'd be timely.
Which gives him all sorts of time.
Yeah.
Because the only thing really threatening Ross to take any sort of action here is
Just the GT.
just the threat of Jitte connecting.
Well, that's it. Nothing else. Yep, there's the Pride Mage, one of. Now it's in play. With the basic force available, so that can't be Wasteland. It can't be ported, though. So now things get really interesting here, because what Shields could do is he could port the forest and then hope to draw 4th land to play and equip the GT, because right now he doesn't have a 4th land. So this is where things get mighty interesting for Shields.
Well, I don't think he can just put the Jitte out there.
I think right now I don't think so.
I think he has to do exactly your line of play, even if he doesn't have the 4th land already.
See, the thing that he can do is he can say, okay, put the GT into play now, untap, leave my Violet to draw, activate Violet, and see if Ross moves.
Sure.
Because he has a Revoker in his hand, and then he can name the Pride Mage. But I believe that Ross would see through that play. And so what Dave is going to do is he is going to tap the forest with a port. And I think Shields' plan is, all right, if I draw a land, I'm doing great. So let's see if he can find one. He'll take a draw. This is a Mirran Crusader.
A mighty find Umezawa's Jitte target against elves. I'm curious with the, you know, I defer to Ross's expertise with this deck 100%. I'm curious that he used the Zenith earlier on here where it felt like he had enough tools to develop, had 2 Cradles in his hand, and could have, you know, spent enough mana to just go get Greater Hoof Behemoth. Maybe he needed to get the Visionary to get enough gas, and everything we saw after the fact was just top decked from the Visionary, but he is now without an immediate way to win the game.
And who knows what happens when Merriam taps. That's what you got to be terrified of.
Well, anything that kills Shiels, Ross could have done last turn. So,
Fair.
although that's somewhat less the case now that there's a Revoker on the Heritage Druid. Shiels has access to port on Cradle if he wants to. Mana is a bit of a bottleneck now.
Yeah. The big thing here is that the backup Cradle that Ross has,
Yeah.
he's been sandbagging. That can really do some nice work.
But even still, he's without any additional mana from his creatures. That's all shut off right now.
Shields in the tank now. He's trying to figure out, all right, if I draw a land, we'd be in the driver's seat, but I didn't. So what do I do now? Merriam Crusader doesn't have much of an impact on the game. The 2 cards that matter are the Revoker and the Jite. And how does he go about using them? And all he can do is pass the turn back, I believe.
No, that was just a flourish, I
Yeah.
think.
It's definitely a hand motion. You see players pass the turn like that all the time. Looks like he's not ready to just yet.
I mean, he can port this Cradle this turn, hoping that that buys him the time to draw the 4th land and then start going crazy with the Jite. Or he can just allow Ross to go, hope he survives the turn, and then 100% get Jite online.
All right, that's a passing of the turn. And that's not an activation of port either.
But this all has to be done through the Kasali Pride Mage as well, which is another level of complexity here.
Let's see where we're going. Death, right? Dried Arbor. Pass. Doesn't have it. Activate Vial. Revoker. Yeah, gonna shut down the Pride Mage.
Here we go.
Now he gets to work his way towards Jite. There's Jite through Stoneforge. This will be an untap. Vial's going up to 3 to work his way towards Crusader. That's where things get really ugly for Merriam. He's going to take a draw. Will Shiels. Shiels with another Stoneforge. Doesn't matter all that much.
Keep in mind, though, Ross is not dead for 1 Jite Connect. He can still Cradle Hoof next turn. He'll have no end of mana, but he's got to get a move on here. It'll start to get pretty dangerous.
Equip on the Stoneforge coming into the red zone. What Shields is looking at here, is there any way for any tricky things to happen? But Wirewood Symbiote is the card he's looking for, and it's not out there.
Yeah.
Actually, I do take that back. He can get a little tricky, can Merriam. With Dried Arbor, you block with that.
Yes.
And then you pick it up with Queer Ranger. So the tricks are actually on the table, and Shields realizes that and says, Mother of Runes give this protection from green. Make sure no nonsense happens.
And the only thing this forces to do is Shields to preempt the Mother Runes, as you just described.
So 2 counters on Umezawa's Jite. Now, 2 counters may not be enough to get the job done. But 2 counters is a start.
This feels like probably a 6 counter game to me. This is a good start. It gets bad for Ross next turn, and then the 3rd hit is probably too much.
I think it's horrible for us next turn because Merriam Crusader's involved. And with double strike,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
4 counters. Yeah. So it actually gets horrible for us if there's another turn in this game. So we're going to tick down 1. Looks like we might be going after the Ranger. That looks like what happens. So that's gone. So do we go after the other Ranger? Maybe we go after Visionary? Go after the other Ranger. And again, if you're Shiels, you're just trying to fade draw steps here. Nothing else you can do.
Yep.
Take a draw. I think that was a fetch. That ain't it.
Shiels done a great job navigating this game.
The thing that's impressive here by Shiels is, again, he knows that the matchup is terrible for him, and all he can do is play to the best of his ability. He can't play around everything. You saw on the turn of the game where he could have ported the cradle. That's just trying not to lose. That's not playing to win. That's a difference there. There's a Verdant. That's a Nettle. Merriam just going to pass a turn back. That's a Merriam Crusader. And I think I know where that GT is about to go. Shiels will take a draw. You see the Stoneforge in his hand. He will draw a card here. He's probably looking for a land. He found a Wasteland.
I mean, Wasteland's not shabby if you're in David C. He needs a 4th mana. He can cut off the cradle. Now, Ross has a backup cradle, but...
Shiels doesn't know that.
Correct.
So now, this is moving there. Merriam Crusader with a weapon. And it's coming in. And it's already got protection from green. It doesn't need any help. So the first strike will put 2 counters on. The second strike will put 2 more on. 4 total. 4 damage dealt to Merriam. And we'll see how Shiels wants to use these counters as well as that Wasteland.
Well, the priority is just get every one toughness creature off the table. It's about critical mass. None of these components are especially relevant for Ross right now. Heritage Druid is shut off, and as is Kasali Pride Mage. So all this is about is making sure that Ross has as little mana to work with as possible next turn.
Yeah, that's what it looks like Shiels is going to do. He's going to whittle away this army.
Now, there's not 4 one-toughness creatures in play. So what Dave can do is take care of 2 of the one-toughness creatures that are relevant, Dried Arbor and Elvish Visionary being the most so, and he can either sit on his heels here or take care of one of the 2 toughest creatures.
And bust up that cradle.
I imagine if he's going after anything, it's Deathrite Shaman because that's a source of mana, but he may just want to sit here as well.
Big question here is, does Craterhoof still get it done?
It's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
It's a lot of damage.
Well, I kind of got to see if he can generate the mana. With the Cradle in hand.
Well, not just Craterhoof itself, but natural order.
Oh,
There's
sure.
some way to put that card into play.
Yeah. With the Cradle in his hand, that's 4 mana. Deathrite Shaman is 5.
Man, I'm going to go get Dried Arbor right now.
And that's an additional mana as well here. So I think Craterhoof or Natural Order are still viable draws even from here. Although now that he's getting the Dryad Arbor, maybe now David wants to get rid of the 2 one-toughness creatures that are in play.
That's one. You see him reaching for the die. Get the Dried Arbor out of here, he says. There that goes. Ross is probably trying to initiate that activity. I'd imagine. Does he want to take care of Heritage Druid right now? He's got Heritage Druid locked down from the Revoker, but it might be better just to have that off the table altogether.
If you lose this game, it's going to be to Craterhoof Behemoth. And if Natural Order is involved, then Ross can just, without, obviously not passing priority because it's as part of the cost, he sacrifices the Heritage Druid. Now you have a sea of 2 toughness creatures against your 1 Jitte counter. So there is a risk here. Even though the Heritage Druid is being locked down by the Revoker, it's not about if the text box matters, just every creature matters so much for Ross right now. And if he were to Natural Order and get rid of the Heritage Druid, that's 16, 21, 23, 24, 26, and minus 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, I believe
close.
Natural Order is lethal.
But that's
not
a glimpse, and now we're going to move to a game 3. Whew. Dave Shiels able to win game number 2 off the back of a GT and a little help from Merriam Crusader. Death and Taxes evens it up here. Boy, oh boy.
And Ross not having it. I mean, going into his third turn, he wins the game with so many different cards.
Yeah. And Shiels know there's nothing he can do about it.
Yeah.
So he played to the best of his ability to get himself the best chance to win. It worked out, faded some draw steps, and now we go to a third one.
So the only thing that I really see changing here is if Ross did not bring in Progenitus for game 2, I think it becomes a much more viable option on turn 3, on the play rather for game 3. Not that he needs it. Of course, David's not really contesting his board whatsoever, but natural order for Progenitus just gives Ross a very easy, very challenging to interact with win with natural order on almost any draw whatsoever. And it's just one creature and 4 mana.
Yeah.
Crater Hoof requires a little bit more support, but Progenitus is more than good enough to win the game.
Both players take a look at the configurations, but they're shuffling back up. There's not going to be any change here. One game here for Merriam for it all. Can he do it? Again, the matchup's great. Shiels playing to the best of his ability to try to stop Merriam from going back-to-back here. Able to fade some draw steps there. No Crater of Behemoth or Natural Order that time. And able to send it to a third game.
Had to draw really well. Had to have Ross miss some of his critical pieces. Had to be on the play, but he was able to do all of that. All you can try to do, you know?
Yeah, that's all I can do.
Just play the cards that you draw and try to be the ones that your opponent plays.
Control what you can control. So game 3 for it all. Will Jerry Thompson still be the only player to go back-to-back here on the Open Series? Will Ross Merriam, with a win with Mono Blue Devotion, be able to take it down with combo elves to go back-to-back here in Providence?
That's the thing. If you're Jerry, you're rooting for Jerry's record to stay unblemished. You would obviously prefer a different matchup than Death and Taxes against Elves. But if you had to pick a player in the room, there's a good chance it's Dave Shiels.
Yeah, a player that can stop him.
Yeah.
It's a pretty gosh darn good pick.
I mean, if you watch the match, that third game that David won in the semifinals, it's almost unbelievable that he's here in the first place.
Yeah, you're right about that. That's for sure. What a weekend it's been. We've seen some awesome matches this weekend.
Yeah.
We really have.
And this elimination rounds has been great. I mean,
Both the semis. Davis versus Merriam earlier this morning, and then Shiels versus me earlier, or
Yeah.
just a little while ago. Just unbelievable semis, but just really good magic all weekend long up here in Providence.
Ross's match against Delver in the top 4 was great too.
Yeah. It's been an absolute pleasure watching these players play. Both players can lay out their openers. They're pretty good friends, play in the same PTQ area. Now they're duking it out here at the Open Series. Merriam 1 game away from going back-to-back. Shiels trying to stop him. Merriam mulligans very quickly. Did not like the looks of that hand at all.
And this is a tough one. You know, I talked to Ross yesterday when he was, after his quarterfinal match, playing against Green White Aggro, great matchup. Wins game 1 on cruise control. Game 2, mulligans and stalls and lands and dies. Game 3 starts off the match with a mulligan. And I asked him, were you feeling any sort of stress there when you're mulliganing starting game 3? Like, is this match of all the matches going to be the one that gets away from me? And he said, no, I was calm. It was, it's fine. It's totally fine. You just play the games. But right now, Ross is a little stressed out. I mean, to come this far, to be up a game, to have this matchup, and against an opponent of this caliber.
You can't say he didn't earn it.
No, you cannot. This is a stressful moment.
What are these 6 cards going to be?
And Ross fully knows right now he's capable of drawing up a 6-card hand where he says, I win the game. There's nothing that David could do about this.
He's certainly capable of drawing up a hand that does absolutely nothing, too.
Yes.
A couple copies of Crater Hoof, Natural Order, Zenith, maybe not so great. A couple copies of Glimpse. There are definitely combinations of cards that are not what he's looking for.
Cradle is the only land.
Yep, a bit of a smile. He's going to look it over. See him reach for that deck a couple times. It looks like he's happy, and we are waiting patiently. Underway.
All right.
Game 3 of the finals. Misty Rainforest.
Just got to make sure.
You
Just
certainly
got to
do.
make sure.
There's a Bayou. There's a Zenith. Time to go get the Arbor. There that is. Shuffle away. He's got an acceleration. Over to Shiels. Picks up a copy of Ether Sworn Canonist.
And Canonist is exactly the kind of card that can punish these mulligan hands. It's also another reason to go potentially into Progenitus post board, because that's just an easy way to win. That does that. I mean, if Shields' hand is all it does is Canonist, Progenitus laughs at that sort of
Yeah,
strategy.
steal win. That's not hard to do. Merriam with a glimpse over there. Now, I think that's the. I think he might have Progenitus in his hand.
Oh my God.
Take a draw. Elvish Visionary is what he found. I think that's why he looked at his hand so long, because he might have Progenitus in the grip already. There's a Forest. That's a Visionary. Can trippin'. Another Visionary. And in for one. Not the most impressive
Meta
turn.
Knight. Oh.
Yeah. Not the most impressive turn. Shields will take a draw. It's a Wasteland. He does have Mother Runes to put in the vial. The question is, does he want to go Wasteland? Or does he have a 2-mana spell to play? We know he's got the Canonist, but does he want to play it now?
And setting Vial to 2 here is so potent because imagine Ross does nothing. You go, you put a Seraph Avenger into play, you start attacking. Sweet. If Ross starts to go off, you can just stop him midway by vialing in the Canonist.
Yep. This is pretty good, too. Looks like Shields may be casting a Spirit of the Labyrinth, perhaps. He is. That'll slow down those glimpse turns. Make that Visionary bad, too. Boy. Take a draw, will Merriam.
There's Natural Order, and if Ross still had the Progenitus in his deck, this would be pretty close to a wrap.
Mm-hmm. However, I'm pretty sure the Progenitus is in the grip. Not the right place to be.
Now, Natural Order can still do a lot of work on this board. If Ross just has some creatures to play, next turn Natural Order for Crater Hoof, and that's, we're good. But it's definitely gotten more complicated than I think Ross would have liked. And look at his hand there. There's an Elvish Visionary. There's a Glimpse. That Spirit Labyrinth is doing some real work.
Mm-hmm. There's a Deathrite. This is a Visionary that won't cantrip. Pass the turn back. Yeah, the hand is Natural Order, Progenitus, Glimpse.
But I mean, next turn, Ross can still make mana with Deathrite Shaman, sacrifice the Deathrite Shaman.
I think the perfect world, I believe, is if he just draws a land. Make
Yeah.
a Natural Order with the Dried Arbor. The big thing here is that for Shields, he's got a Wasteland in play and a Wasteland in his hand. He can just go after lands
Yeah.
and say, you're not Natural Ordering me. I don't think so.
And he's got so much of Ross's ancillary plans covered between Aethersworn Canonist and Spirit Labyrinth.
Yeah.
Ross needs mana to do anything because there's no other way to. There's no place else to go.
She was also with the Stoneforge Mystic, so he can go on the GT plan here as well. Wonder what David is gonna do. He's got the tools, but does he know that? And how fortunate is he that Progenitus is in Merriam's hand?
And Elves is a deck where when you're playing against it, you have so many different routes you can take in a lot of games. You can try to deny mana. You can try to fight over one big spell.
That's your Mystic. Maybe. He's got a couple of 2s over there. The 2s are good. Looks like a Revoker instead. Then again, How about a Stoneforge? How about any two? How about roll die? How about a Canonist? Canonist on screen. And a Wasteland.
And Shiels really only needs 2 mana to operate here with all the stuff that he's got going on. So he can afford to do this.
Merriam draws a Cradle. I think it's lights out. He passes. Maybe Spirit coming in. Huh. Oh, Mother Runes is there. So
Yeah,
it's-
Ross is not blocking.
yeah, safe attack. Yeah, Shields realizes that. 3 damage coming across. Merriam down to 16. Don't want to miss that damage.
Now Shields has the option of setting the Revoker right now on Deathred Shaman, or just passing, going and getting Stoneforge Mystic. But I think he wants to just do the immediate turn play. Because Stoneforge Mystic is still another turn and then another turn before anything really happens.
Merriam untaps. It's a draw. Is it Cradle? It's Wirewood Symbiote. That's not what he's looking for. Did you bring up Canonist? Missed it. Card causing some trouble right now. 1 spell a turn for Ross. He's just going to play Wirewood.
Yeah, these hate bears are doing a lot of work in this game.
And now this is actually, that's a pretty good choice for Revoker. So you're not great. Firewood's not as great as it normally would be here, but as you mentioned, the hate bears are really working overtime. See, Shield's got to quickly go through his deck. You got to imagine it's going to be GT, and it is. But as you mentioned, he's 2 turns away.
Yeah.
A lot of work to do there.
Also, assuming that he doesn't draw a land this turn, this also means he's not wastelanding.
That's true.
So this is some risk here because Craterhoof is just going to be lethal by a lot if Ross can get it into play. I think there was a pretty strong argument last turn to just put Revoker down, name Deathred Shaman, and maybe use Wasteland. If you draw a 3rd land, maybe you Wasteland and start doing Stoneforge operations, but I guess he still has the option to untap and then put the Revoker into play immediately. So that line's not cut off from it.
Still okay. Shield's going to untap. Likely going to leave the Violet too. He's got the GT in his hand, the weapon of choice. See if he finds a land. This is a big draw for him. That's a Caracas. That's important.
Gives him the 2 mana he needs to function and the ability to use Wasteland.
Absolutely. He'll take a look now at some things. There's the Caracas. Wasteland looks like it might be going towards the Arbor. And he wants to make sure he knows exactly what happens here. It takes care of that.
And I like Ross not making a move there whatsoever. Just Shields it can't be 100% sure that Wasteland's good there because there's so many weird operations in Elves.
Yep.
So
Shields passes. Merriam. Gotta remove a creature to gain 2. Can he draw a Gaia's Cradle this turn? Draws a card. That, I do not believe was a Cradle. It was a Misty Rainforest. All he can do is play that and pass. Shields looking to maybe put the GT into play. An activation. Sarah Avenger will join the party. There's a clock. That's an activation. This is Numazawa's GT. The card that won game 2 is looking to win game 3.
and Sarah Avenger is nice here because it means that there's a Jitte target that doesn't require the use of Mother of Runes. So Dave can start putting on a lot of pressure here.
Shields will draw. He's still got that Revoker. Picks up another copy of Stoneforge Mystic. I think we know where his mana is going to be tied up, though.
Yep. And if you had to ask Ross what percentage of the games that he loses is to this card, I'm sure it's quite the high number.
In comes the Avenger on the GT. 2 counters placed on the equipment. Remove 1. Wirewood. Got it.
And now natural order is,
That door's closed.
it's not enough. And you know, that's the thing about once you close the door on elves, it's not opening back up.
Nope.
They don't have a way to come back from spots like this.
Deathright's down. Will Merriam sacrifice this Misty? The answer is no. He will take a draw.
Is that the cradle?
I think that's the cradle. I don't know if it matters, but it's the cradle.
Yeah, it seems like he's well short from this position.
Yep.
Being able to get enough creatures to play. He has to sack something in the natural order. So that leaves him 3 creatures. Times 3 is 9. Crater Hoof is 5 is 14. 15, 16. So he's short even before we even account for Shiels blockers, of which he has many.
Yep.
And haunting Ross here is the fact that Progenitus was in his opening hand off of that mulligan.
Also, that cradle is 1 turn too late.
Yeah.
Actual 1 turn too late. Because his line of play this turn could be sacrifice Mr. Rainforest, get a Dryad Arbor, play my Cradle, tap Cradle for 4, sack the Dryad Arbor, go get Crater of Behemoth. But then, what Shiels is able to do, of course, is use a GT counter on the Elvish Visionary.
Yeah.
And then, as you mentioned, the damage adds up in such a way that it's not enough, and that doesn't even take into account the blockers.
Even if Ross could just magically put a Crater Hoof Behemoth into play right now and attack with everything, he would still be short. And he can, of course, do much less than that, and there's a Jite counter looming on one of his one-toughness creatures.
He'll sack the Misty. Gonna likely go searching for the Arbor. That's what he gets. He'll play the Cradle, add 4. There's the natural order. Shields is going to look at his hand, then he'll look on the board. That's Merriam's 1 spell for the turn. Shields says that's fine. Merriam going to go through the deck. We know the Progenitus is in the grip. Then he's got to go get a Kosali Pride Mage. And maybe that's why he was smiling. That's the last card he wants to go get.
Yep.
I mean, he doesn't have much of a choice. He's got to get that GT off the table.
That is a heartbreaking natural order right there. And needle off the top for Shields.
Gonna activate here.
And now Ross needs to respond right now because it could be a revoker.
Oh, he knows. And he will. You gotta take care of Elvish Visionary. Whittling away those forces. There's Stoneforge. Dave gonna go searching for the next piece of equipment, Sword of Fire Knights. That'll mow down creatures just fine as well.
Yep.
And that is gonna do it. David Shields wins this match over Ross Merriam. 2-1. Stopping the streak, and Jerry T, he is safe.
And of all the matches that we're going to end Ross's run this weekend, for it to be this one is incredible. One of the most historically lopsided matchups that exists in Legacy. We saw game 1 where it wasn't even remotely competitive. Shields, with a mixture of excellent draws and just a good strategic game plan going in, was able to take games 2 and 3 and win the tournament.
What that is a player refusing to lose.
No.
Shields knows how bad the matchup is, and he played, I don't want to say he played perfect because I hate saying that because Magic is such a difficult game, but he just played one hell of a match.
Yeah.
Straight up. Just played as well, I believe, as he could every single turn to give him the opportunity to win the game and the match, and he did.
And again, a million things had to break right for Dave, too, in that match. Again, if Ross does not draw the Progenitus, Game 3 is a very quick affair, in spite of Dave having a good mixture of pressure and hate. But Ross Mulligan probably felt like he couldn't go down to 5, I guess, with a solid hand, even though it contained the Progenitus. And Umezawa Jite just prevented Craterhoof Behemoth from becoming enough of a player.
Crazy.